There are 6 main ingredients to my recipe for some cinematic cream. Camera settings, light, composition and movement, halation filters, shallow depth of field, color grading, and grain and red halation. Want to know more about the components? Hang on. So a meal stands and falls with its base settings. The same with your camera settings. If the base is not correct, it's really hard to make something good out of it. Make sure you get all basic settings right and learn to shoot in full manual. Use a custom white balance to avoid temperature shifts while recording, and expose your shots right. An under or overexposed shot is mostly unusable, like a burnt ingredient. Also get most out of your camera using the bus codecs your camera is offering, and using a flat picture profile can help you maximizing your dynamic range. Always use double the shutter setting than your frames to have the right motion blur. I'm a big fan of shooting slow motion, but due to cinema and movies, our eye is really used to the motion blur of 24 frames. So with 24 frames and the right shutter setting, you get the typical motion blur, which feels for us cinematic. So be aware of which frame rate you choose. Don't always shoot in slow motion, only for the shots you know you want to use in slow motion later. So always choose intentionally what serves your shot best. With light, it all began. Light is the most important factor in your video. With a really good lighting setup, either natural or superficial, a shot can look really great even on a really cheap camera or phone. For me, really soft light can make a shot really cinematic. Like morning light with a lot of fog, with sun rays getting diffused by some objects. With natural light, you mostly get a really small time frame where lighting is perfect and you get these magical shots. So be aware of the weather condition. When is the sun rising or setting? Are there objects in the way for a sunset or sunrise? Are there obstacles you can use where light shines through? With artificial light you can also create great scenery. Same here, the bigger your light source and the more you diffuse your light, the more appealing and cinematic it is. Also, the more light sources you add, the more complex your final picture will be. Great composition is like a delicacy for the eye. Our brain senses harmony with certain image compositions, like the rule of thirds or the golden ratio. Learn the rules of composition to be able to break them intentionally. To serve your story and the feel you want to transmit, sometimes it just has the right effect to break the rules and attract interest of the viewer with an unusual composition. I'm a big fan of camera movement, especially handheld. You can move the camera through a scene like it's a living being on discovery, gives a really fragile and organic feel. What you have to make sure is that the shakes you create are bearable and don't make a shot unusable. I made a detailed video on handheld movement, check it out here. To make a static shot more complex, you can add some movement in post with keyframes by zooming in or zooming out. This way, you can create a feeling of getting dragged into a shot or getting pulled out. This especially works well when combining wide and close-up shots together. Zoom in with a wide shot to a close-up shot and these two get connected really well. Shallow depth of field can make a shot super dreamy and cinematic. This puts the focus fully on your subject and removes all distractions. Although the so-called bokeh is so loved by photographers and filmmakers, you have to choose intentionally to serve your story if you want to blur out anything else of the image or if you want to include the surroundings. Fully blurring out everything else fits more to a thoughtful, introspective scene. My most beloved accessory for filmmaking are halation filters. They take out the digital edge out of your image, create like a softer, dreamy look, give you highlights, some halation, some glow, and create a film-like, more analog look. After years of shooting with various brands, combining them, getting really intense looks, this year I decided to create my own. And the result is Marble Glow. With multi-layer coating, we achieved the perfect combination to me. Only slight overall image softening, less stylized. I'm using this on all of my projects, I really love the look. Now we just brought it out for phone as well. Check it out in the first link in the description. Color grading can change the whole mood of a shot and make a regular shot stand out to an extraordinary one. I really like film emulation LUTs. With these you can imitate an analog film look, which feels more organic and also cinematic to me. What's even more important than using LUTs is that you know how to correct a shot right. You need to know how to adjust temperature, get skin tones right and contrast in a shot. Also masking certain parts of the image, making them more or less visible, stand out or get into the background is really important to me. I made a detailed video on my color grading process, check it out here. Lastly, to finalize my image, I'm always using grain to overlay. Depending on the vibe I'm going for, I'm either using 35mm grain, 60mm grain, or even 60mm exposed grain, which is really rough and has some particles in it. For a really intense look, I'm using multiple layers of a grain, stack them on top of each other to get a shot extra textured and moody. Halation is often seen in film footage around bright highlights, which you could call an image error, but is a really nice side effect and gives the whole image more of a film-like feel. This year the effect was really seen a lot in photos and videos, and I created a plugin where you can add this effect to your videos in Final Cut Pro. You can select how intense, how soft the effect is, which areas the effect should be applied, but there are also many other programs for other editing programs. So guys, that's how I cook my cinematic cream. I hope you liked it and learned something new. Don't forget to check out my clothing brand Visual Minds, 2 shirts, 2 hoodies, oversized clothing, fairly made in Europe, dealing with 4 elements of the perception of art. Check out the designs, I really love them. See you at the next one. Peace.